Welcome back, everyone. It's time for our fourth episode of Everywhere We Belong. I hope that you've all had a wonderful 2 weeks and are ready to get into our news bulletin, curated with care. Our first item is regarding India's recent Champions Trophy victory. India has secured their second ICC trophy in 8 months, with a thrilling 4-wicket victory over New Zealand in the Champions Trophy final at Dubai International Stadium. Chasing 252, Captain Rohit Sharma led from the front with a magnificent 76 runs, while crucial contributions from Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, Hardik Pandya and Akshar Patel helped India overcome a mid-innings wobble to cross the line with 6 balls to spare. The stadium erupted when Ravindra Jadeja hit the winning boundary, with Queen's We Will Rock You playing as fireworks illuminated the sky. It's interesting to know that Freddie Mercury has ethnic roots in India. It was a bitter pill to swallow for New Zealand, most definitely, but also for Pakistan. This was because they were given the privilege of hosting this year's tournament by the ICC. Do you see the mismatch? The final and every other match involving India was hosted in Dubai amidst withdrawal threats from India due to security concerns raised by the government. The Pakistani fans can't have been pleased with this development. India is undoubtedly a financial juggernaut within cricket, and this reaffirmed that fact. In our next item, the age-old association of being skyborn and unavailable to those not physically with you is about to be done away with. My uncle used to fly to the States about 15 to 20 times a year, and he still does, not as often though. This item is for him and any other listeners that spend a significant percentage of their time in the sky. This development will help us all to stay abreast of developments, coordinating with colleagues and communicating with friends in times we wouldn't previously have been able to. Etihad, Emirates, Singapore Airlines and several other leading airlines have developed internet usage programs that allow users to stay connected while in the air. Across the board, these privileges are limited to either members of the airline's special programs or business class and first class customers. The US Department of State's March 2025 Visa Bulletin has introduced significant changes affecting Indian investors applying under the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program. The final action date for Indians in the unreserved EB-5 category has retrogressed to November 1st, 2019, creating a delay of over 2 years for green card processing. This means that only Indian applicants who file before this date can proceed with their applications, while all others must wait for future bulletin updates. Meanwhile, former US President Donald Trump has proposed a new gold card residency program, requiring a $5 million direct investment into the US government. Unlike the current EB-5 program, this proposal would eliminate job creation requirements and potentially offer a faster path to US residency, though it still requires congressional approval. Indian investors affected by the EB-5 retrogression can still pursue reserved EB-5 categories, including rural, high unemployment, and infrastructure projects, which remain current with no waiting period, or explore alternative visa options like the L1 and O1 while monitoring these developments. Green card delays are nothing new for our listeners that are attempting to gain permanence in the US, I'm sure. The New York Daily News, America's 5th largest newspaper website, has partnered with NewsCred to launch a dedicated Desi news section on NYDailyNews.com. This new editorial section aims to serve the growing South Asian community in the tri-state area and across the United States by providing customized content about Indian politics, entertainment, cricket, and US-Indian relations from leading international publishers. While this specific catering to Indians in the States is unexpected, it may not be completely out of left field, considering that 13% of all Indian immigrants in the US live in New York and Illinois state. NYDailyNews.com has recognized the need to provide interesting content to this growing, sophisticated, and educated Asian Indian audience, said Steve Linus, Senior Vice President of Daily News Digital. The section will utilize NewsCred's Smart Press technology to deliver fully licensed articles and images from over 750 publications, refreshed daily with relevant content specifically curated for this audience. Founded in 2008, NewsCred works with brands and publishers including Forbes, GEN, and Lenovo, with licensed partners such as Bloomberg, The Economist, The Guardian, and the Associated Press. As the previous quote proves, the Indian diaspora, in the States and everywhere else, is only growing, numerically and in influence. We at Belong have an outlet focused on the experiences of Desis abroad, called Dispatches from Home, in which we discuss cultural and other novel differences between India and other countries. You can check it out on our Instagram. In today's main topic, we're going to explore a technological breakthrough that could transform India's connectivity landscape. Starlink's imminent entry into the Indian market. After years of regulatory hurdles, Elon Musk's satellite internet service is finally making its way to India through groundbreaking partnerships with the country's telecom giants. Just this week, Reliance Jio announced an agreement with SpaceX to offer Starlink's broadband services to its customers, following Bharti Airtel's similar announcement just a day earlier. For our NRI listeners, this development represents more than just another tech headline from home. It signals a potential revolution in how your family members in India, particularly those that happen to be in remote or rural areas, will connect with you and the wider world. Considering how popular Teslas are with us in the States, I know that Indians pay some considerable attention to Overlord Elon and his machinations. Let's break down what makes Starlink different from traditional satellite internet. Geostationary satellites are satellites that orbit the Earth at a specific altitude directly above the equator, thereby appearing stationary to a ground-based observer. Unlike conventional services that rely on single geostationary satellites, Starlink employs a constellation of them in low Earth orbit, just 550 kilometers up. This proximity dramatically reduces latency, which is the time it takes for data to travel between your device and the satellite. In practical terms, this means video calls with relatives in India's countryside could become as smooth as those with colleagues in Manhattan. Starlink users typically experience download speeds between 25 and 220 megabits per second, with most enjoying speeds over 100 Mbps. Upload speeds range between 5 and 20 Mbps. For NRIs managing businesses or remote teams in India, this could be transformative. This service's low latency, which is the delay before a transfer of data begins, is around 25 milliseconds compared to 600 plus milliseconds for traditional satellite internet. It enables real-time collaboration that was previously impossible in areas with poor connectivity. The partnerships with Jio and Airtel are particularly significant. Reliance Jio has committed not only to selling Starlink equipment through its extensive retail network, but also to establishing comprehensive customer service systems for installation and activation. This removes a major barrier to adoption, the complexity of setting up satellite internet systems. It's worth noting, however, that these agreements remain contingent on SpaceX receiving proper authorizations to sell Starlink in India. The regulatory path has been challenging, which explains why Starlink is already available in over 100 countries worldwide, but not yet in India. For those of us that frequently travel back to India, particularly to smaller towns or rural areas, Starlink could fundamentally change your connectivity experience. No more frustrating drops during important work calls or video chats that glitch with loved ones abroad. The economic implications are equally significant. For NRIs investing in businesses or startups in India's smaller cities or towns, reliable high-speed internet removes a critical infrastructure limitation. This could accelerate the trend of tech development moving beyond the traditional hubs of Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Mumbai. From a broader perspective, this development aligns with India's digital transformation goals. The government's Digital India initiative aims to connect remote areas and empower citizens through technology. Starlink's entry, alongside ongoing 5G rollouts, could help bridge the digital divide that has long been a challenge in India's development story. For families considering returning to India after years abroad, improved connectivity in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities might make the transition smoother, allowing continued remote work for international companies while enjoying the benefits of being closer to extended family. The pricing structure for Starlink in India hasn't been announced yet, but globally the service typically charges a one-time equipment fee plus a monthly subscription. How this will translate to the price-sensitive Indian market remains to be seen, especially given the competitive data rates offered by India's existing telecom providers. For now, this partnership between SpaceX and India's telecom giants suggests exciting possibilities for bridging physical distances through digital connections. Now it's time for our community highlights section. I've taken an excerpt from the NRI subreddit, which I believe will be especially relevant to some of us that have spent a lot of time abroad. User K. Shanikam raised a query that says, I spent my first 20 years in Mumbai, after which I moved across the EU and have been settled in the US the last 20 years. I got US citizenship, have decent savings and a high-paying job, etc. However, life is lonely and mechanical here. I fear my young kids, not yet in school, are also not getting love from their grandparents, social circles, and not being able to have the fun that we enjoyed in our childhood. We're not able to spend time with our parents or socialize with friends or relatives. Overall, I feel like we're losing motivation. Hence, I'm contemplating two options. Option 1. Find a job and move to India permanently and decide on a path forward later. Option 2. Take a year-long break in India, do freelancing, relax, travel, and then decide. I do have concerns, however, which include the high taxes, quality of life, high cost of NRI schools, poor air quality, and other things along those lines. Last year, we stayed in India for 6 months for a family emergency. Our trip was unplanned, unorganized, and chaotic, but it was nostalgic and made us rethink our priorities. It was a culture shock for my 3-year-old, and he couldn't adjust. He didn't like the pollution, smaller houses, lack of playgrounds, etc. But I'm willing to give it another try with better prep. We're content with what we have and can always earn more when needed, but I feel that this time of our lives will never come back. We've lost our 20s and 30s. If we can't enjoy our 40s, then all of that extra money is of no use even later. Mumbai is my first preference as I have a lot of family friends there, but I'm okay with Bangalore or even tier 2 cities like Coimbatore, my native place, for a better quality of life. Provided there are good schools, exposure for the kids, and also for us, to build and nurture a good network. Despite this, tier 2 cities don't usually provide adequate progressive exposure in school and society circles, similar to what you can expect in Mumbai, Delhi, or Bangalore. This is a user's response that I thought was relevant. I suggest you explore tier 2 cities if you can't manage pollution, traffic, and all the drama associated with it. I'm from Coimbatore too, and my son is also a US citizen. I lived in the US, Europe, and Australia for over a decade in multiple cities, and I'm okay to keep switching personally. Why not explore schools like Chinmaya, where a lot of NRIs put their kids? It's a full residential school located in a beautiful location near Coimbatore. If not, you can consider schools in Ooty and Kannur. All of these are residential and wonderful for kids' development, as per my experience. It seems that the priority here is this user's children, and rightly so. I thought that response was genuine. And it seems that the priority in both the user's response and query is the children, and rightly so. I remember going to school in Ooty when I was in kindergarten. It was a school called Hebron and was an old and established residential school. Despite the short amount of time I spent there, it had quite the influence on my language ability and the way I conduct myself. His concerns are well-founded, I'd imagine. The toss-up between metropolitan sensibilities and distance from the chaos is a tough one. If you have thoughts on this highlight or anything else NRI related, please do write to me at micah@getbelong.com. That's MICAH@getbelong.com with what you're thinking. My inbox is always open. That brings us to our weekly tip, curated to make your life easier. This time around, our recommendations for NRIs is to revisit your residential status to know for sure, if you don't already. Belong's residential status calculator will tell you exactly what your legal status as a citizen is in the eyes of the Indian government, whether that's resident, non-resident Indian, ordinarily Indian resident, or resident but not ordinarily Indian resident. That's NRI, ROR, and RNOR, respectively. All you have to do to gain this knowledge is answer a few multiple choice questions on our webpage. It's linked on the top right as soon as you're there. That's getbelong.com. That's been the 4th episode of our podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you have a great fortnight. I look forward to speaking with you again.